Breaden Marshall is returning to be a difference maker for Allen's Grinch and Scott Frost in 2025.
You are Locked On UCF, your daily podcast on the UCF Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to Locked On UCF, your daily UCF podcast. I'm your host, Mike G, and thank you so much for making us your first listen of every single day. Turn us on, turn us up, we'll turn it out. I'm here solo this morning on a Monday morning. It's game week. Happy game week, everybody. Takes on Jacksonville State Thursday night in the Bounce House. We can't wait for it. We're going to bring you guys lots of great coverage this week. But today, we're going to talk a little bit about Breaden Marshall and his return for UCF in that defensive backfield. Later on in the show, we're going to talk about the run-pass ratio I expect for game one, and then who's going to be the leading back in terms of rushing yards for game one. Let's start at the top. Breaden Marshall, what Scott Frost would call a culture keeper. Now, you've heard us use this term a lot on the show recently. Scott Frost coined the term. I didn't make it up. But look, Breaden Marshall returns to the defensive backfield for UCF in 2025 and looks to have an immediate impact on what the Knights are going to try to do defensively. Make no mistake about it. Alex Grinch wants to play tough pass defense, and having a guy like Breaden Marshall come back is going to be a key. Now, he's the lone returning starter in UCF secondary, so that's not a confidence crisis, but certainly he brings continuity and on-the-field poise in this revamped roster. What did his year look like last year? Well, as you guys know, he got hurt last year, but he played mostly at the nickel, played in 9 games, 6 starts. All those starts were at nickel back. But in those starts, he logged 22 tackles, 17 solo, 3 tackles for a loss, 3 pass breakups, and an INT versus Iowa State, a game that UCF lost 38-35. And guys, make no mistake about it, he got tackled just short of the goal line. Had he made it in the end zone, UCF might have won that game. So Breaden Marshall is not as a guy to keep an eye on here. Now, Steven Leonard did have him in his projected 2 deep, projected as a starter. And what's the bottom line here on Marshall? Look, man, he just doesn't show up. Breaden Marshall is a guy that can make plays for you. And in your first year, you need playmakers, particularly on defense. Now, we all know UCF struggled to move the ball and through the air, and they struggled to score at times. Anything you get defensively that can flip the field is going to be super important for the Knights this coming season, which means getting off the field on 3rd down. So having a corner like Breaden Marshall that can defend the pass, I think is going to pay dividends. Now, look, injury robbed him of, fall and spring, but he's healthy now. And not only is he back, but he was flashing in fall camp. Alex Grinch praised Marshall for hitting the ground running, and he called him a major piece of the secondary force. Now, if you notice some trends here with this UCF staff, when they single out people, it matters. It matters. Breaden Marshall being singled out here by his coach on that side of the ball, I think is important. It's important to watch. They haven't been slinging around praise very loosely so far this offseason. And I've watched this closely because you have a lot of coaches that do coach speak. I don't feel like they're coach speaking a lot on their players. As a matter of fact, Scott Frost has kind of set the tone in terms of letting the media and the fans know exactly where he feels like his team is at. He talked about his wide receiver room, unproven, but lots of potential there. When he talked about quarterback, he said, look, man, nobody has pulled ahead of the pack. And talking about Breaden Marshall, they feel like not only has he come back, he's come back with a vengeance, and he has a chance to make a real impact this fall. So, Marshall had some quotes here that I want to talk about. He's just excited to be back with the guys. And this is super important, I think, stuff. When you have guys who are excited about playing football in this system, which seems to be all of these guys. These guys are super excited, and Breaden Marshall had some important quotes that I want to talk about here with you guys today. I'm going to pull Breaden up here. Breaden said, I'm just excited to be back with the guys. With what happened last year, dealing with injuries and having my season cut short, it just means a lot for me to be out there with my brothers. I feel like a lot of my brothers can say that too. As I mentioned, he's the only returning starter from last year's secondary. Marshall went on to say, you never know what your role is on the team. You never know when your name is called. So by having a lot of guys that are versatile, it's going to help us in the defensive backfield. So Breaden Marshall is going to be a guy. He's going to be a dude. I'm telling you, this guy is going to be good. He's going to be someone who makes plays, and hopefully he adds to that interception total. I'm excited to see if the next time he gets a chance at a house call, if he can finish the job. But how does he project defensively in the Big 12? Well, look, man, he's sneaky talented, and he has a chance to be one of those guys that sneaks onto lists at the end of the season. You see a lot of guys make lists at the beginning of the season. I don't put a lot of stock in those lists. I like the guys who make the end of season lists because we're talking about what they did. And there's a certain maturity to Breaden Marshall that they've talked about with him. As a matter of fact, they said that there's a maturity about him. This is a quote, which is critical to have, especially in the secondary where some forces can work against you in terms of having a lack of maturity in the secondary. It shows itself more than any other position on the football team, in my opinion. That is Alex Grinch speaking of Breaden Marshall there. So Marshall projects to bring some stability to that defensive backfield. And look, man, you've got to find intangibles in year one if you're Scott Frost and Alex Grinch. You've got to find the players with that thing up here between the ears. Breaden Marshall has that, and I think that it's going to help them quite a bit, right? And he not only is he taking the role on the field as a guy who has supreme athleticism and can play, but he's been giving wisdom to some of the younger guys, which is also very, very important. So taking on that mentorship role for this staff, coming back to that term again, culture keeper. What kind of guys are you going to have in your locker room to make it gel? They're going to carry the message and the culture that you are trying to instill, because trust me, UCF is in for some turbulent times this season. And if you don't believe me, just go ahead and buckle in right now, guys. It's going to be an up and down season. I think they're going to lose some games that they probably should win, and they're going to win some games that they probably should lose. Having those guys like Breaden Marshall who can steady the culture ship is going to be really, really important. So, as things shake out in that secondary, Marshall is going to be a stabilizer who, I think has a chance to do some really, really great things here for Scott Frost and Alex Grinch. Can't wait to see what he is able to do. But look, man, defense is only one side of the coin, guys. UCF is going to have to find their way to some wins. And the best way to do that is by achieving a decent run-pass ratio. Can the Knights find a good run-pass ratio for game one? We're going to see what it looks like versus Jacksonville State. But first, a quick word from our sponsors. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our friends at Rougiette. Guys, you probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette. Rougiette Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pill that can take hours, Rougiette's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, really long time, so you can stay confident and control when in the moment. If traditional options haven't worked, Rougiette might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. I love that it's completely online. Rougiette connects you with a board-certified doctor and ships you your treatment discreetly to your door. Look, head to Rougiette.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That's Rougiette.com/LockedOnCollege and use promo code Locked On College for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compound drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but not FDA approved, and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, and manufacturing review. Please visit the Rougiette website for full safety information. Going over to Rougiette.com and get your swerve on today. Well, the other thing we hope that's swerving here in the 2025 is the run pass ratio and what that should look like in game one. Look, I fully expect Scott Frost to run a little bit more than he passes it in this one. As a matter of fact, I think that you will see a run pass ratio of about 55-45 in this one, if not 60-40. Now, why am I saying that? He's been effusive in his praise for Myles Montgomery and Jaden Nixon as Cam Fancher tries to settle in at QB. Now, he pulled ahead. He won the job. But if we're to believe Scott Frost, I'm not sure that Cam Fancher won the job by much. It seems like his experience won out, but there are still some concerns about protecting the football and him throwing the football, which is why I see UCF leaning on the run, establishing the run early, getting Myles and Jaden comfortable and in the game, and controlling the clock in this one. Now, a lot of you have come in the comment section. You've talked about this Jacksonville State game. You've said, Mike G, look, this is not a game that UCF can overlook. And I agree with you. It's a game they should win, but not one they should overlook. How do you make sure that you keep Jacksonville State's offense on the sideline? It's by running the football. You got to establish the run. You know, Cam Fancher is a decent athlete, but, you know, you want to see those running backs getting those carries, and I think it looks like 55-45, if not 60-40. Now, if Cam Fancher looks good early, I think we see more of a 55-45 split. If he's a little shaky, they'll keep it 60-40, and they'll protect the football and try to warm their quarterback into the game. Establishing the run, controlling the clock is such an important part of a rebuilding year for a team like UCF. You've got to be able to lean on the run. Now, we all know R.J. Harvey is gone, and he left a huge-sized hole in that UCF offense. As a matter of fact, he was underutilized when he was here. If you're Scott Frost, you can't afford to underutilize these running backs. He talked about the opportunity that Myles Montgomery has, one of those guys who maybe got a little overlooked due to his predecessor being really good. But, you know, in comparing him to some other backs in college football history, he thinks that he has a chance to step in and be really good. Now, you've got the transfer in Jaden Nixon, who has shocked a lot of people this fall. This spring going into the fall. We reported on this show he was doing well in camp. UCF expects him to be a high contributor. You might see these guys be a very, very good complementary tandem in the Big 12. Establish the run, dominate up front. Can they get their offensive line to get some push in the run game and protect the football? That's the name of the game if you're UCF. And here's why I think this is super important. If you want to protect the football, if you want to keep your quarterback in the flow of the game, if you want to control the game, you got to run the ball. And you have to run the ball effectively. And there's nothing more demoralizing to a team's psyche than lining up and having your offensive line blow their defensive line off the ball and prove that you're more man than they are when it comes to playing smash mouth football. If you're UCF, that's what you have to establish. You have to establish your dominance over the opponent by running the football down their throat. Jacksonville State I think it's a good test. Again, I call it a game they should win. Not a game they should overlook, but one they should win. How you win it, I think, is going to tell us a lot about what this team needs to do moving forward to continue to hit their goal in year one. Now, what is that goal? That goal should be to make a bowl game. I don't care what anybody says. All this talk about, well, 4 wins would be good or 5 wins would be good that you hear coming from, that's loser talk. This team was good enough to win 6 games last year. You heard me talk about that Iowa State game that they lost 38-35. As dysfunctional as the offense was last year, they had a chance to win games. They lost it. They should have beat Iowa State. They should have beat Arizona State. No Cam Scatterboo. They had chances to win both those games, and they didn't. And with some competent coaching and some better play calling, now you don't have R.J. Harvey, but he was underutilized anyway. Top 10 in the country in rushing yards. I believe he finished like 6 or 7. But he had the fewest carries of the backs in the top 10 in rushing yards at 232 carries. That is criminal. Call the sheriff to get Gus and lock him up for only giving R.J. Harvey the ball 232 times last year. 6.8 yards per carry. Every time he touched the ball, it was 3rd and short, and they gave him the ball less than the requisite amount they should have to win games because they were a one-dimensional football team. You have to have 2 dimensions, if not 3, if you're Scott Frost. And that starts with the run. If you can't run the football, UCF is going to – I mean, look, man, take the under. But I think that he understands the importance of this, which is why I think you see UCF go after the run early and try to see what they have in the run game. Because the last thing you want to do is to get in a pass fest with quarterbacks you don't trust to protect the football. That is a nightmare scenario for UCF offensively. Myles Montgomery, I think, has a chance to be a sneaky good back. And look, man, for whatever reason, he's good but not great. I think Jaden Nixon has what it takes to pick up the slack. Every once in a while, you see these guys come from these schools like Western Michigan, and nobody knows how they're going to do in the Big 12. Well, I'll tell you this. For what I saw from UCF last year, I think that this group has a chance to be pretty good. Now, we talked about Tayven Swint and his injury, but you got Stacey Gage back there as well. And should there be an injury, he'll have a chance to step up early. We don't wish for injury, but, we hope everybody stays healthy. It's just one of those things, man. Myles Montgomery, Jaden Nixon, those have to be your guys that turn in stellar performances in game 1. Now, do me a favor. After the video, hit the comment section. Let me know, how many yards do you think UCF running backs will go for total in this one? I want your total yardage. But I think that it's going to be a 200-plus day on the ground for the running backs. Combined, I think these guys run for over 200 yards, and it's going to be fun to watch. I do. Now, they'll test the air, and this is the other side of this coin, I think. They'll test it through the air. They will. They're going to ease Cam Fancher into this game, but they are going to test his arm because they're testing trust. And 45%, I mentioned the 45-55 run-pass ratio here, is just enough, I think, to test him and see what kind of throws he's comfortable with, see what kind of chemistry has held with this wide receiver group that Scott Frost has praised effusively this offseason. And if they can pull it off, this has a chance to be, I think, a pretty special group on offense. I do. I really do. It sounds like fan talk. It's going to sound like a lot of bluster. But look, man, I thought this team was underutilized and undercoached last year. And with some competent coaching, we might, and belief and hope that you guys have heard me talk about repeatedly over the last week, I think you see the offense step up. And in game 1, it could be something that not a lot of people are expecting. But look, it's got to be more than that. It's got to be led by somebody. And we talked about Myles Montgomery and Jaden Nixon, but which one of these guys is going to have more carries in game 1? We'll talk about that right after a quick word from our sponsors. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. August 26th is officially FanDuel's Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP or eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown Super Bowl champ before Week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. Take your flyer on the MVP race, kind of leaning Patrick Mahomes, or crown your champion. I'm actually betting on a healthy Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Or parlay your division winner dark horses. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. We also have a special request from our Locked On folks for you guys to fill out a survey and let us know how we're doing here at Locked On. Locked On wants to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't like, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes the survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. That's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thanks for helping us out. Which back will have more carries in this game? Will it be Myles Montgomery or will it be Jaden Nixon? I think the clear answer here is Myles Montgomery. I think that Scott Frost has said all the right things about Myles Montgomery. I think he thinks that he deserves a shot. He waited his turn. He stuck with UCF. I think we see him get the first crack at it. That's not a shot to Jaden Nixon. I think he's a fantastic running back. And for what it's worth, I think that workhorse backs, for the most part, have died in college football. You have every once in a while you have those special kids who can, carry the ball 30, 40 times a game. That's some crazy stuff to see these days. But running back by committee, in large part, has become the way to get it done on the ground. You need more than one back. And for whatever reason, at the rate that running backs are getting hurt, it just makes more sense to even the load. Don't run your running back into the ground, and make sure that you have somebody else that can spell him, not just from time to time, but that can give your lead back the type of rest that he's going to need to carry you in the fourth quarter. Now, one of these guys has to establish themselves as the go-to guy in the fourth quarter. Is it going to be Myles Montgomery? Is it going to be Jaden Nixon? Well, for what it's worth, I think it's going to be Myles Montgomery. And I love the things that he said. It's not just about his ability, too. We talked about Breaden Marshall. It's about his leadership. He is another culture keeper on this team. And if you're Scott Frost, you're looking for guys who have earned that. These guys have earned that this offseason. How much fun is it, if you're a UCF fan, to see a guy like Myles Montgomery carry the torch here? Because R.J. Harvey left huge. We're going to stop talking about R.J. Harvey eventually, but I think it's important to honor what he did at UCF, what he started. A guy that stuck with UCF. He got drafted in the second round off a 4-8 football team. Incredible ode to his talent, if you ask me. And Myles Montgomery could be the next back drafted off this team. Now, maybe I'm jumping the gun talking a little bit about the draft, but hear me out. When you're trying to build culture and you're trying to send a message to college football that UCF is the place that you want to come play, you need guys to get drafted. Your draft numbers need to be up there. And if you can develop a guy like Myles Montgomery and get him to the NFL draft, that speaks volumes to the direction of your program. I can't wait to see this. Guys, this is going to be a more fun season than I think a lot of people are expecting. If you watched Iowa State versus Kansas State in Dublin, guys, the Big 12 is wide open. Neither of those teams looked unbeatable. A ranked matchup, 22 versus 17, week 1. Call it overseas. I know it was raining and it was a little bit of a sloppy game. But I've been saying this for a while. that I don't think there's a clear front runner in the Big 12. At Locked On here, a lot of folks voted ASU to repeat. I'm not in that camp. I've never been in that camp. The team that was picked to finish last year won it all. With no Cam Scatterboo, I'm not going there. I think you see another surprise winner. Now, does that mean UCF's going to win it? No. But in the middle of the pack of the conference, I think it's as close as ever. Why can't UCF be one of those teams in the middle of the pack of the conference, surprising, winning some games that nobody expects them to win? They absolutely can be. If you could win 4 games with the mess of what was Gus's offense last year, with a little bit of competency, you can't, and a semblance of a passing game, you can't tell me that this team can't win 6 games. I'm going to keep saying it until record shows that they can't win it. This team can get to a bowl game in year 1. And when they get there, they can win it. Do not underestimate the value and the power of competent coaching and belief in a system and belief in a culture, which is what these guys have here. It's what they have. It's going to be fun to watch. And I hope that people are ready for it because, when it's here, everyone's going to say, oh, well, they were better than I thought. And I'm going to say, I told you so. Because at the end of the day, this is more than just a football team. This is a family. This is a way of life. I think, this is something that if they build it right year 1, by year 3, we're going to be talking about a very, very different UCF football team. The Big 12's got to do their part, man. Only one team making it from the conference to the college football playoff is unacceptable. With as many teams that's had a shot and as many teams that blew it down the stretch, I don't know, man. I think if you're UCF, you look to step in where others have failed in the next couple of years. But it starts with year 1, and it starts with the foundation that you lay year 1. On tomorrow's show, we're going to dig a little deeper into what this team's makeup is headed into that Thursday night matchup. And we're going to see if we revise some predictions here about what UCF will be. Guys, that's it for another great edition of Locked On UCF. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of every single day. For your next listen, go check out our friends at Locked On Big 12. You can find them on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. And go check out our friends at The Portal Show. You can find Brian Smith over there. He's got all the latest going-ons in college football on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. You can find us here tomorrow on Locked On UCF.